You folks ready? Okay, guys. A couple minutes late, but that's all right because I don't know if I was going to use the whole 45 minutes anyways. My name is Brian Henger. I am the Regional Vice President for a company called Malvertising. Quick show of hands. Anybody in the room heard of Malvertising? Yay! I had a lady, lovely lady, stop by the booth earlier and say, she goes, your marketing campaign should be, how did she describe it? She said, total number of times you've saved my ass, basically, and then have like a number running alongside of it. I'm like, that's pretty clever. I might use that. So, okay, guys, they ask us to do these presentations to be somewhat vendor-y in a way and more kind of academic and in a way to talk about industry-related types of topics. So the premise of the conversation today is going to be driven around psychological warfare or psychological manipulation. I'll apply it specifically to the tactics that bad guys are using. If there's some time at the end of this, we've got some. I threw a couple of slides at the end that are about some new anti-ransomware technology that we are creating right now. That's been a bit of a hot topic for folks. So, if time permitting, we'll get into that. If not, we can just end with this. So, the agenda really quickly is kind of a quick peek at the threat outlook. The evolution of online advertising tactics, what cyber criminals find appealing about advertising, psychological manipulation, how advertisers and cyber criminals are working together, what psychological tactics are used by the bad guys, and then some reasonably simple tactics for people to protect themselves from psychological manipulation, and some time permitting, maybe a little bit about us. Okay, so an introduction to online advertising. So for this really to make sense, you should step back for a second and take a look at the premise of online advertising. It is a business that, say, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, wasn't as nearly prominent as it is today. It is really a conversation, or it's a technology that's used between website publishers, advertisers, people who are creating products. Essentially, it's an exchange between us, the user, and the website. Often, the ad networks themselves are not delivered by the actual publisher themselves. They're built and delivered by other companies. But in essence, the tactics that online advertisers have been using have been in kind of a transformation in the last 5 or so years. So if you kind of think back, maybe say even 10 years ago, the premise of clickbait was used very infrequently for websites today. Now, the idea of clickbait or sensational types of concepts in advertising go back for 100 years. Like the idea that we were going to use sensational claims or bold types of imagery to attract people to look at certain images in a certain way to kind of draw them into the message that you want has been used in advertising for years. And actually advertisers have been on the forefront of psychological manipulation for really a significant amount of time. Lots of money is spent, billions of dollars a year are spent on research specifically around what would we respond to as a user, what imagery works, what calls to action work, what things will manipulate a person to take action today. And so, the premise of online advertising as it's evolved in the last 10 years has really started to adopt some of the same concepts that you would see used in regular TV advertising or newspaper advertising. And those premises have really started to evolve. Now, the premise, like the idea that clickbait wasn't as prominent. It used to be, if you think back, that seeing these sensational claims, like congratulations, you're a winner as a pop-up, or you could lose 50 pounds. These ideas, really you would only see them in the past, on sites that were maybe some of the more unsavory places to go on the internet. And so it was just, it's really been about in the last 5 or 6 or 7 years that you started to see clickbait show up in much more prominent locations. Like if you just go to BuzzFeed or Huffington Post or Yahoo, many of these publishers are using online advertising tactics as ways to drive attention to sites. And so the idea now that clickbait or sensational titles has started to evolve for something that we see on a daily basis is far more common practice as it relates to online advertising. Now, the challenge from an online advertising perspective too is it's complex, right? Often ad networks are layered. They're often advertisers will sell to creative or to publishers in ways in which the people who are buying the ads are anonymous. It's really difficult to actually track back through the system and determine who made the purchase. And so just the mere complexity of online advertising actually makes it somewhat difficult to identify who's actually driving the content per se. And the premise from a targeting specific demographic is still very, very much in practice. And so the advertisers a long time ago figured out that they wanted to tailor messages for a very specific audience. And so they started to do a lot of analysis of age groups, genders, locations, specific times of the day. I mean, like if you look at if you listen to the radio or you watch advertisements, they're 100% built around the audience specifically that's looking at that information today. So now this has kind of moved directly into the online advertising world as well. And what's happening is that the modern browser will present a tremendous amount of information back to online advertisers. The amount of information that somebody can learn about you from just your browsing habits is really scary, actually. They can determine what times you browse, where you browse, what your system is, what kind of information you have, what social media sites you go to. Like the advertisers collect a tremendous amount of demographic information about us specifically so they can serve ads and information back to us in a way that would be compelling for us to look at those advertisements. Now, unfortunately, the threat actors have learned these same tactics. And so threat actors will often deliver their content and their information back to users, specifically tailored for the interests that they have, for the types of systems that they have, for when they browse, when they don't. Like there's the idea that now bad guys have started to leverage the tactics that advertisers are using and have used to be effective has become far more commonplace today. And they build their campaigns specifically to be effective based upon the demographics and the target profile of the audience that they're working with. So cyber criminals and advertisers working together. Now this is kind of one of those gray areas that a lot of folks don't always see or don't know about today. So often people who are programmers, they will write stuff that are called PUPs. Everybody familiar with what PUPs are in the room? We call them potentially unwanted programs. Sometimes we call them PUMs too, which are potentially unwanted modifiers. Basically, these are programs that I would say by nature aren't malicious, but they kind of are the gateway to malicious activity. What happens a lot is advertisers work with PUP creators to build PUPs to actually help drive advertising revenue. So PUPs will come in many forms and fashions. They can be toolbars, they can be browser pop-up windows. They're programs essentially built to drive you towards some other location right now. And often the advertisers are paying the PUP authors to create that linkage. So they'll many times buy lists. They can get information from breaches. They can get millions of email addresses. They can create spam campaigns. They can leverage the PUP authors to be more effective in delivering the message that they have today. And so what can happen is that at the end of the day, while you're just enjoying your computer experience, the PUP authors could be pushing you in directions based upon the exact same target demographics, based upon the exact same psychological manipulation that the advertisers are using to be effective with their ads. So classic advertising tactics used by criminals. So this is now the point where bad guys have pivoted and started to say, all right, guys, we're going to use the same tried and true techniques that advertisers are using because while it's proven to be very effective for capturing their attention, it can be very effective for driving traffic and for helping threat actors to get their malicious code onto computers that exist today. So the first is target identification. So the premise for target identification is driven around knowing exactly what your target audience is and knowing the value of that target audience, right? So like I use my parents as a good example in this. So by identifying the types of content that my parents are interested in, identifying the times that they might browse. My mom and dad, I had to take a Windows 8 computer back because they just could not make the tiles thing work. And so I literally had to go find a Windows 7 machine to buy them at Thanksgiving because they just couldn't make the leap. So bad guys know this. And so they often can make the connection between what types of applications are these people likely to be running, when will they be browsing, what sites will they be using, what is their availability, and they will often use that information to specifically build campaigns that are effective against those users. So the idea of what is an effective attack then? So threat actors have pretty much recognized that if you build your attack in such a way that it is widely dispersed, you can give away some secrets. I don't know how many people follow what zero-day vulnerabilities are, but effectively exploiting a zero-day vulnerability it's not that easy to do, and it's not that easy to find. And so often, when bad guys identify zero-hour vulnerabilities, they don't want those to be made well known. And so they actually have shifted tactics, specifically what used to be kind of spray across wide audiences of people and hope to get tactically lucky. They've actually started to narrow their focus. They don't want to deliver components of attacks that then law enforcement or security companies will learn what are the components of that. So they've specifically started to build tactics around who is my target, how to identify them, and then let's specifically build campaigns directly towards those people. Those are targeted attacks. Now, that happens in many, many different ways, and there's lots of different forms and fashions. I'll go over some of them as they happen right now. So this last year was probably the biggest exploding area for the malware delivery that was happening. It was a big theme in 2015, and this kind of tags right along with what's an effective attack. Why would I want to do target identification? How many people are familiar with what malvertising is? Small group. So malvertising is this premise of basically putting malicious content into an ad network, which then is served on some other publisher's website. So there have been a whole bunch of highly, well-known sites that, like Yahoo Finance and Huffington Post and BuzzFeed and others and Hermes, right? Where these sites were delivering, Yahoo Finance on one given day was delivering malvertising campaign to like 100 million users. Now, the idea for malvertising and target identification is that I would specifically want to compromise websites that my parents would most likely go to. And I would specifically want to exploit technologies that exploit applications that are specifically the types of applications that my parents use. And so I will go and compromise the website, not necessarily even the website, but maybe the ad network that's delivering content on that website. And my parents will land on that website, and without any initiation, no clicking, no nothing, they will effectively become infected based upon the bad guys just knowing what applications they can exploit, because they've done their target identification. They know what an effective attack will be. They've tested it against services that exist in the world. They've spent a lot of time and effort ensuring the high success rates of these attacks. What makes this very lucrative and very possible for bad guys is the concept of real-time bidding. So real-time bidding is a mechanism in the online advertising world that allows advertisers to auction off advertising space to people who are going to either be the highest bidder. And they often will bid this in terms of either pay for clicks, pay for views, pay for impressions. All of these terms basically are mechanisms that allow the advertisers and publishers to make money, but they make it very economically powerful and a simple way to deliver malicious advertising per se that's not only effective, but is built specifically for the people that they are getting it today. So, the user at this point isn't necessarily being manipulated. He's being psychologically analyzed and then delivered based upon exactly what would be relevant and important to him today. So watering hole attacks and exploits. The premise here is essentially to study the adversary again and to look at specifically where do people like to hang out. The example that we're giving right here was a developer site. It was an SDK site for iPhone developers. These were all Apple employees. And so essentially the bad guys just place information on a water. They know these developers are going to go to this site. They know exactly the types of systems these people are using. They know exactly what they'll respond to. And they basically they start placing exploits on this site that would specifically target those individuals. Those individuals like going here. They get information. This is a valuable site for them. This helps them do their job. They don't even know they're being exploited in the background. But effectively, the techniques are all based upon identification, effective targeting, specific demographic. So social networking attacks and clickbait. Okay, so social networking is, guys, fans of social networking? So users love social networking. Security guys get really, really paranoid about social networking. The amount of information that we make available to the world is amazing. I was at the RSA show here recently, and I was talking with a gentleman who's actually won the Black Hat Capture the Flag competition. And the amount of information that he had on me in about really 30 seconds. I mean, he knew the last place I was computing from. He knew, where all the likely information that I would need to be responsive to it. The claims actually that are interesting right now too, and this, as you can see in the attack of the first one over top of the snake, is a hijack of a Skype account. And so what essentially the bad guys will do is hijack a Skype account or create a new Skype account or create a social media account, Facebook, LinkedIn, where you pick the social media site. And they'll then capture all of the friends. They want to hijack an account. They would likely go to the friends that I have on either Facebook or LinkedIn. They'd capture all those names. And they would impersonate one of those people. They would then get a message delivered to me that would come from somebody that I know. That message, as you can see in this particular one, is LOL, is this your new profile pic? This is a direct call to people's self-image. This is a direct call to people's self-esteem. When you say to somebody, hey, that's a funny pic, or you look really great, or in some way you're kind of calling upon, their self-image, people are very responsive to that. Like they want to, well, wait a second, what picture of me is on the internet right now? And so bad guys know specifically the types of things within social networking that we'll respond to. And the ease with which you can identify cracked accounts, hijacked accounts, breached accounts, that's reasonably simple to do. And so the degree to which social networking scams can be very effective are high because our willingness as people to want to respond to somebody who's making a call to our image. The second is an example of more modern clickbait. How many people right now have seen these really crazy videos? I watch them. They're great. Who doesn't want to see the shark? Did you guys see the one where the giant tuna comes and eats the shark that was on Facebook? It was great. It's awesome. I fell for it. If it was malicious, it would have been bad for me. And I work for Malvertisers, which would have been bad for me. But the point being is that modern clickbait has really evolved a lot. Like they're using sensational titles. They want you to click on these things. They pick videos and topics that are very cool, right? Like why would you look at something that, isn't very exciting, right? They know exactly how to position content and information, and they'll draw you to sites. Often if you click on something on Facebook, you ever notice how it takes you out of that site? You go to another site sometimes. That other site may not have anything on it at all except an ad network that's serving an exploit kit that was compromised by the bad guys because effectively they bought the ad campaign that now can deliver the exploit kit. And so the whole thing started with this clickbait that got me excited to go take a look at this video. And so the idea for bad guys to create really sensational titles and things that are catchy and like that's the whole premise. Like I would probably watch a huge snake eats a man alive. Like that's something I probably would take a look at. And that's just one of what are thousands of videos, if not hundreds of thousands, and it's probably more like tens of millions that are happening on a daily basis, that are all built by people who completely understand what captures our attention. So it becomes really easy to get people, much easier to get people to places that you can deliver malicious code than you probably could imagine. And here's the really scary thing about the exploit kits and the malicious code. The user doesn't have to do anything. An exploit kit will send down a script that essentially will assess what the applications are in your system. Often there will be multiple exploit kits on a site. It will look for the most highly available application to exploit. It will do it in milliseconds. There won't be any screen. There will be nothing that slows down. You won't see anything happen in the background. It will deliver an exploit kit that they know is effective. And your machine will be compromised and you won't know it. And the goal behind it will not to be to show anybody. It will actually to be as stealthy and quiet as possible. And it'll all start off this premise of something that I was really interested in. So scams and social engineering at work. Anybody in the room getting called by the companies that are saying that your machine is in bad shape and that you might want to buy? Yeah, it happens all the time, actually. There's a really, it's good and bad. There's a really effective one happening right now that we're blogging on at the Malvertising website. We just started blogging on this a couple of days ago. So now, because people can geolocate your IP address to a very specific area, I can tell exactly what ISP you're using. I'll know immediately. And so there's a really slick one going around right now that AT&T is contacting people and letting them know that their system's been compromised. Now, I use AT&T at home, and it looks very legit. They have videos. They have information. It all looks exactly like AT&T. When you call, they say you need to immediately call. All these indicators on your system. They scare you. Like they are psychologically trying to freak you out. And then they want money. And they're going to give you this package that you'll keep your computer clean for the next 3 years. We participated, meaning Malvertising, in a $120 million FTC lawsuit against companies in Florida that were running this scam. The company in Florida that we essentially were like working for the FTC for, or expert witness essentially, had 3,000 people employed in a call center. We actually wound up hiring one of the guys because he was a good engineer. And he told us all about the scam. He said the FBI came in and shut them down. He said took all the computers. And a week later, they just opened up a mile away. There's nothing to stop them while they're suing them. Those scams are making hundreds of millions of dollars. It's not a little bit of money. People get scared. They react. They will believe the people. If you present them with enough compelling information that is legitimately, okay, that's my ISP, and this looks real, and they say I have a problem, my parents will believe them. Like, that's the kind of stuff that gets my mom, she'll act. And so the idea that we can personalize these scams now and make them very real for people is a call to just pure fear, right? Like, they are just controlling you. They are saying, if you don't take action, bad things will happen. And so they're very effective ways for people to be manipulated as it relates to scams and social engineering. This is the big topic lately, and I don't know if anybody's had the unfortunate experience having to deal with ransomware. It's a growing problem. It was already a problem. It's getting worse. There was a hospital in Kentucky last week that was called Methodist Hospital, if anybody's had seen this in the news. But effectively, they put a red banner across the top of their main page on their website that says their hospital had been compromised by ransomware and that they were declaring a state of emergency. They had enacted their emergency response plan. And this is on par to if they had a tornado or, a really, really bad event or a storm or a fire. Like, they looked at this event as life-threatening because systems were compromised that dealt with people's lives. So the premise around ransomware, as it at least relates to psychological manipulation, is even worse. So there's this concept called assumed guilt. Now, if there's something on my machine, and even though I didn't put it on my machine, it's still on my machine. And so if a bad guy were to flash in front of your face a picture of child pornography on your computer, that freak you out? Like, I'm pretty sure they lock you up for that stuff on your computer. Lose your job, they don't take it. It's not a laughing matter. And people do it. If I flash you a message from the FBI that we've identified information on your machine that's consistent with something illegal, I've locked your files, or I've taken an action right now that you must respond to, or you will go to jail. People freak out. We tracked a case that led to a suicide. A man literally was being basically, extorted, and they were using child pornography as the tool to do that. And he gets so scared that he wound up making a really, really bad choice. It's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And so this one right now really is the really, really scary one, in the sense that people freak out. Like, they don't know what to do. People pay the ransom. Like, they want out of the situation that they're in. And it's all because they're scared. They're really scared. And the technology that's coming out related to how we can identify these attacks, in some ways, has lagged the bad guys. The bad guys are doing some very, very innovative type of work at hiding their techniques, obfuscating their attacks, making it very difficult to undo the changes that ransomware makes. So smartphones, not necessarily smart users. I don't like to say that because, quite honestly, I think that the tactics are, quite honestly, I would tell you now, it maybe isn't us. I mean, in the past, it used to say, oh, people just didn't know what you're doing. All the IT people know what they're doing. You guys aren't. But quite honestly, now the techniques are so sophisticated that even IT people get fooled. And so the bottom line for really, is it users? No, I think the bad guys use proven tactics that are capable of getting us to take action. So phishing scams work really well on mobile phones. Like a lot of people believe their mobile phone's secure. A lot of people believe that this is a platform that hasn't necessarily been attacked. People think that iOS is pretty unbreakable. But it's really not so much that the iOS system's unbreakable. It's that I can give you things that you'll react to because they're free, or because they're exciting, or because they're a cool new app. I think now on the Android platform, it's happened quite a bit more because Android took a position, or Google took a position to make that ecosystem open, where Apple chose an ecosystem to make that ecosystem closed. But the premise that malvertising on phones, phishing on phones, free apps on phones that all then have Trojan horses in the background as a way to either capture information about you or to use that as the means for infecting the phone, those are all on the rise today. So the thinking for phones too is, there's a lot of common sense that goes into how you protect yourself from these types of attacks. So spear phishing and breaches. I worked for a company that was doing a lot of really, really cool work around email authentication. The original sin of email was that it was never built with any authentication mechanism. Anybody can send an email purporting to be anybody. I could send you an email from yourself to yourself. I could send an email from God to you. Like it literally would say, "You're doing a great job today, God." And the premise would be it would come from a domain that you would use. So spear phishing and phishing attacks have changed a lot. They used to have bad spelling, and you could tell the Nigerian bank scam thing, and like everybody knew this was pretty crappy, and this just wasn't good. But now the guys have gotten much more sophisticated. Did you guys hear about the attack that just happened where the like $80 million of $1 billion type? It was a Russian hacking group, I think, that was extorting the banks, and they caught it because there was one misspelling in one word. Right? But if that's not there, like if they get that right, $1 billion gets fleeced, all electronically wired within minutes, all gone. They got 80 million, that's pretty successful. And so, for us, what we've seen is this rise on building spear phishing messages, again, based upon proven topics that we'll respond to. The latest exploit kits attacks are coming in the form of word macros. They're targeting HR systems, HR departments right now. They're using terms that would be very consistent with how HR people would talk to each other. The emails are coming from legitimate sources. This just happened about 6 months ago to us. So our CFO was sent an email from people we trusted, and it was requesting an $80,000 wire transfer. Our CEO, who happens to be a 26-year-old man, by the way, so this is kind of interesting that he caught this, he didn't recall authorizing an $80,000 wire transfer, so he called Mark as our CFO, and he said, "Mark, what's this wire transfer?" And he said, "I don't know, I thought you wanted it." And no. And they traced it back. Our CEO and our CFO got phished. Lots changed at the company after that, by the way, too. But the likelihood right now that targeting phishing specifically at people with messages, like if you're a C-level person, you think you talk to your general counsel a lot? You talk to your law firm a lot? If I built a message that came from the law firm that you talk to daily, it wouldn't be very, very hard to just read your annual report and figure out all the things that you're working on, what's going, what's popular, what's happening right now. There's a company here called PhishMe, actually, that's the premise, is to educate employees about the types of messages that come in the form of phishing emails, because they're built really, really well. They're built on principles that we will respond to. That's my time here. Okay, 10 minutes. Okay, so how do you protect yourself? Now, without going into a bunch of big product stuff right here, this is where we keep this simple. And we make a lot of technology, and a lot of the great companies that are here right now make a lot of technology that help you do this. But these are just kind of simple ideas around this. Use traditional approaches. Use antivirus software. Use anti-malware software. Patch systems. Use common sense. If you think that it looks a little odd, or you haven't heard something from that person, or that person wouldn't send you those types of messages, don't click on it. Or call them. Pick up the phone. Send them an email. "Hey, did you send me something?" Anonymized data. You can browse without exposing all of your cookie history. There's lots of websites now that use lots of opportunities to do ad blocking. That's kind of the new thing. A lot of people actually, there's Malvertising is making some big investments in the kind of ad blocking capabilities that are out there today. I hit a website today that said, "Looks like you're using ad blocking." We don't like that. So there's ways in which you can protect yourself online. Privacy settings in browsers. You don't have to expose yourself. Yes, here's the deal. Advertisers and websites are going to have to figure out that we're not going to expose all this information to them for them to be successful. We hold the power. If we start browsing anonymously, if we use privacy settings, and they can't express their ads, they can't do the things they need to be effective, we're not, I'll go to a different website. So use the right software and hardware, right? Make sure if you haven't spoken to people about investing in the right technologies, leverage them. There are settings in hardware now today that come on the motherboard that protect data. Use encryption if you can. Back up. If you are backed up effectively, you can recover from a ransomware attack by just grabbing the last backup. You don't have to surf as an admin. Something like in the range of 90% of malware attacks wouldn't be effective if the users didn't have administrative access control. Now, I have a team of folks that work for me, and when they can't load the WebEx client on their machine because they can't install software because they don't have admin rights, or they can't install a printer or something like that, drives them crazy. So there's this kind of ongoing battle amongst what's, too much and too little. But there are ways in which you can limit user rights to limit your exposure to bad guys that are out there today. So cyber attacks really haven't changed much. Believe it or not, what we track, the technology that bad guys are actually using to infect systems has not been that innovative. It has not evolved that much. The tactics that they're using to get us to put that code on systems is. There's been a lot more innovation on how we deliver attacks, how we make effective attacks, how we target them against specific people. 5 years ago, really, it was just fire it out there and hope to see what you hit, right? If you hit enough stuff, you made some money. If you didn't, you tried again. Use layered protection. So use an anti-malware product on top of an antivirus product. Use a firewall. Set up as many ways in which you can protect yourself as possible. And don't give them the power. And so for us, our goals right now for this are to educate folks, help them to, get a feel for what their options are. You don't necessarily have to be a victim of tactics that are targeting us from a psychological manipulation perspective. So, quick little nod to Malvertising. The company was founded in 2008. We are growing quite a bit. We actually are closer to 400 employees today. The business is focused 100%, I would say, we say on the infection landscape, but 0-hour exploits, 0-hour malware, advanced threat removal. We've been the global standard. I bet you a lot of people in the company or in the room may have gone to Malvertising because some system they had may have failed them, and they wanted to see if we could recover it. And often with our technology, we can restore that system and remove not just the malicious artifacts, but all the non-malicious artifacts as well. We are, of the 400 people, 2/3 of those people are engineers that are focused on the threat landscape, either in the form of threat intelligence or they're actually building the technologies that are adapting what we know about the threat landscape today. And often those that go and grab our prevention tools or our remediation tools learn kind of the matriculation for Malwarebytes as people would say, hey, could you have prevented that attack that you guys just removed? And the short answer is yes. If we can remediate it, we could have prevented it. So many people's graduation when they use our technologies starts with our remediation relevance and then kind of ends with our prevention technologies. 100,000 businesses protected. We finished 2015 north of $100 million of revenue. Now, a lot of folks know that about us. A lot of people think we give this stuff away for free. We have given away, we believe, north of $3 billion of our remediation technology for free as a premise of helping to educate people on, what we could prevent or help those people out of a jam. There's a really interesting psychology that happens with Malwarebytes. When I talk to customers, I talk to them all the time. I can't tell you how many people even walked up to me today. That's why I made the comment in the beginning. Hey guys, you guys are great. You really saved my butt. That concept. And lots of people have said, why did you give away $3 billion worth of software? There's a really interesting psychology at the point with which somebody comes to Malwarebytes to download our application. They often are at a really vulnerable state. They often kind of are nervous. And we've made a very clear decision to not jack with people, actually. Like to not give you some, well, we'll help you out on this, but, my sales guy's going to call you in a little bit or something to the degree. We have made a very conscious decision over the 10 years the company's been in business to just help people. And so our vision today is that we believe everybody deserves a malware-free existence. And as long as, you guys are there, we'll help people out of jams. Our mission is to build the best disinfection and prevention technologies in the business today. The reason the product has been downloaded over 500 million times is because of the efficacy of the tool. People don't use it because it's free. People use it because it works. And, what we would estimate, just by the way, in 2015, based upon not having to rebuild systems and being able to fully remediate a system as opposed to rebuild it, in 2015 alone, we estimate we saved 750 million IT man-hours. That's based upon the average amount of time that SANS and several other places would say it is to repair a system that's been infected with malware. That number is anywhere between 4 and 8 hours. 80% of enterprises today choose to re-image systems. That cost in productivity and time to users is high. It's like 750 million hours worth of it. And so, the idea today that there are automated ways you can recover a system, restore it to a known good state exists. At any one given time, we've got about 280 million endpoints that are out there today. One of the really great things of giving away $3 billion worth of free software is we collect a lot of information from it, anonymized information, of course, basically threat information. We call it threat telemetry. We collect a lot of detail about the worst of the worst. Malwarebytes is focused on zero-hour malware and zero-hour exploits. We often are the first to be able to detect them, often the first to be able to clean them as well. And we get a lot of that because we're very much the tip of the spear at the front of an attack. So we see what's often really the worst of the worst. We make it in two solutions. One we call endpoint security, one we call breach remediation. Endpoint security is our full prevention-based technology. It's blocking zero-hour exploits, zero-hour malware, zero-hour ransomware. It's providing advanced threat removal. It's a scalable, centrally managed solution that allows you to essentially protect hundreds of systems from a central location or thousands of systems. And then the remediation technology is being delivered under what's kind of an interesting new concept. It's called proactive malware hunting. This premise is driven around identifying systems within an environment that may or may not be showing any signs whatsoever of malware infection. Gartner and Ponyman both estimate today that the average dwell time for malware in a corporate network is over 200 days. Often when people run Malvertising technology throughout their environment, they're shocked to see what we find. We've had a lot of people that immediately take action based upon the evidence that comes back. It can be sobering for some folks. So this is right on 3 minutes short. Anybody got any questions? Yes. Okay, so about 80-85% of modern malware is delivered via an exploit kit. An exploit kit is essentially a scripted technology that evaluates the most popular applications that we use today for vulnerabilities and then triggers a vulnerability. This is a mechanism to allow that bad guy to install malware either into memory or into the hard drive, and often have malware that they've tested against other, like go to VirusTotal or other places and test the effectiveness of this malware against all the common endpoint detection products that are out there. So what I'm doing is, say, I'm exploiting, say, Internet Explorer or Microsoft Office to do two types of different attacks. One are called memory corruption attacks. One are called application design abuse attacks. And so the way that which that technology works for us is we are analyzing the behavior of the applications and the operating system. We actually analyze all of the API flow that the applications are making, and when we see API flow that's consistent with either memory corruption attacks or application design abuse attacks, we just kill those processes from happening. So we're 100% behavioral-based technology, uses no signatures whatsoever, and the premise is not what is the file that's being delivered, it's how is the application trying to interact with the operating system, what is the behavior of the application in relationship to the operating system, and when we see that, we really don't care if that exploit kit is trying to deliver your mom's, kind of Christmas cookie recipe or zero-hour malware. We just kill the processes that would allow for the, for the escalation of running a file. And so that's the first stage of an advanced attack. That's about 80-85% of modern malware. That leaves about 15-20% of malware that would be delivered, say, on a social engineering scam or a mechanism other than an exploit kit. Exploit kits are almost all delivered in a drive-by download. That's why malvertising became so successful, is I compromised the ad network, put the exploit kit in the ad network, the user lands just on the web page of Yahoo Finance, and it's this ad network that Yahoo Finance has nothing to do with. Like, they're just selling space on their website. And now that script analyzes my browser, determines the applications that I have running on the system, and then downloads a script, which then, as that script runs, it calls out to other websites to pull down payloads, which are called exploit payloads. That type of activity is what we would see as behaviorally wrong. We just wouldn't allow that to happen. If a file was to become existent in memory or on a hard disk, then we have to analyze that file. And so the second technology we use is what we call a behavioral heuristic engine. We call it a linking engine. And essentially what it looks at are all the anomalies that exist within a file today. If you look at what modern malware has been built to do and how it's built, it is obfuscated, it is packed weird. They do a lot of techniques right now to try and hide what this file is. And so we don't look at it like as a one-to-one, okay, this is a bad file and we've made a hash for the bad file. We look at the behavioral characteristics of the file. We employ what's called post-execution file blocking. So as the file attempts to run, either from memory or the disk, we would stop that, analyze it, and look for those types of attacks. The third thing we're doing, and this would have been if I had more time to talk about the ransomware technology, is we're analyzing how processes and threads are created. What ransomware authors are doing today, which is really, really interesting, is they're embedding their code into processes that will often spawn other processes that will create other threads that will lay 4 or 5 and 6 layers deep to actually then deliver the technique to encrypt the files or encrypt the file system. And so what we've done is create a system right now that behaviorally analyzes how the threads and processes are working and what the indicators are that they are showing us. So if a thread were to be created that attempted to encrypt the file, rename the file, delete the original. Those are indicators of what would be ransomware-like activities. If a thread attempts to shut off the volume shadow capability, that would be an indicator of what ransomware would do. If a thread was created to turn off the volume shadow service, if a thread was created to kind of kill restore points, or if a thread was created to call encryption keys, or if a thread was created to use a secure delete utility. There's a whole bunch of indicators of behavior that are consistent with either ransomware or what bad guys are doing. We keep an index and a running total of all the thread counts that we have, and in a window of time, when those indicators go above a certain threshold, we identify that file as potentially bad. Now, the cool thing about that is because they nest those in a long set of injection chains, that's what they're called. What we'll do is not only arrest the process that's attempting to encrypt the files, we'll actually trace it back and find the instigating file. We take that instigating file and we compare it to a cloud-based list of what are known good files. We keep a master whitelist. So we do two things too then. We ask the Windows, is this a Windows protected file? And then we compare it. And if it's not a good file, and we know it's not a Windows protected file, and it has the indicators that are consistent with what ransomware are, then we make the call with ransomware. And so when you look at that, we look at the start of an advanced attack chain by looking at how the applications interact with the operating system. And we look at what are the behaviors of the files themselves, and what are the behaviors of the files now doing on an operating system. And what are those indicators, whether they equal good or bad. And that allows us to be really, really effective at identifying zero-hour malware, zero-hour exploits. And as a byproduct and a benefit of having a giant installed base of people who use our free stuff, we get telemetry data back into our threat researchers on a daily basis, and it's from 300 million machines. And so, it's allowed us to continue to be very, very effective at not only advanced threat removal, which is what a lot of people know us for, but actually advanced threat prevention. To answer your question? Anybody else? You guys have been a wonderful audience. Thank you very much.